Welcome to CMN103, Introduction to Creative Industries. Today we are lucky to have Dr. Paul Williams come join us again. So we've already met Paul. He's already talked about creative writing and publishing. He's also talked about the creative process. And today he's going to talk to you a little bit about the creative work involved outside of creating the actual creative artifact, if you like. So what I mean by that is Paul is an author as well as an academic and lecturer in our programs, but he is an author, and actually writing his book and getting his book published is just one part of his creative practice. So I'm really interested to know what else he does creatively to engage with his readership and to promote his book and to creatively interact via social media. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah.
So could you first of all just tell us a little bit about your recent book?
Yes, well, here is the book. It's a crime thriller, and I suppose what we're here to do is dispel the myth that writers go and sit in garrets, whatever garrets are, and they write their book and that's all they have to do, and they send it out into the world. And it may have been that once. I don't think it actually was, because if you look at William Shakespeare, workshopping, you're working out in the real world all the time. So even before I wrote the book, what I had to do was assess the market. Like, is this going to be a book that people will want to buy and read? You know,
and
so
what questions did you ask, or what process did you use to assess the market or the potential audience for this book?
Well, it always comes from your own creative impulse. Like, you want to write something. Okay, but now let's see who's written this before. Am I doing something that's been done 1,000 times, which is always true? But then say what. Let me go and read. I suppose in my field, the best thing is to read as much as possible. So, okay, if I want to write a crime thriller, I go and read as many crime thrillers as possible. See what's happening. Look at the successful ones. Look at the number ones. Look at what's happening, and then you have a good idea of where you sit or where you want to be. So that's the pre-writing. There's nothing to do with the actual writing process. Okay, it's all to do with the industry and where you're going to fit in, or where you're going to disrupt, or what are you going to do with that industry.
Oh, I love that word.
That word, yes.
Okay, so I'll just recap and then I'll come back to this idea of disruption. So what you're suggesting is that you really need to first of all know what is already in the market, but also perhaps consider what your unique proposition is. What do you have to offer that perhaps is not already on the shelves or available to an audience? And then what do you mean by potentially disrupt the market or the audience then?
Well, I suppose that's the dance you do, is that you want to fit in, but you also want to be unique, and you want to have something new. And that's the whole thing of innovation and disruption is, okay, what have I got to offer? And as you read these novels, you think, there's something they're not doing, or I can contribute here something that is unique that's not there. And that is the selling point. And that's what you use when you give a pitch to the publisher. You don't say, I'm going to send you another one of these 1,000 books that you've already got.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You say, no, I fit into this genre, or I understand the market, but I can offer you this, and this is the extra little thing. And that's in a way, that's where you have to find it within yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? What's unique about yourself that you can bring?
Now that's really important, because everybody actually does have a unique set of lived experience, values and interests. So it's basically harnessing those things. So it's not just about the craft, but it's embodying or embedding yourself and your uniqueness into your process as well then. Yeah,
that's what we teach. That's what we do. It's like, it's not just mechanics or craft, but it's you and what you bring to the world, and I suppose your experience and how you can use that.
So I'm going to ask a really personal question. What did you bring to 12 Days? What was unique about 12 Days, and how did you pitch that then to a potential publisher?
Okay, well that's good, because it's an Agatha Christie mystery that follows the formula. It's exactly like And Then There Were None. It takes that formula because that works.
Yes.
It's the closed room mystery, and even you see it everywhere, like Knives Out, a recent movie that you might have seen. It's the formula of the closed room mystery. So here it is. Here's what I'm working within. and what I see, but I'm bringing something extra. There's something that I want to, I suppose, express in this that is slightly different. It's a twist on that. Like if Agatha Christie did this, what would a modern Agatha Christie do now in this present climate or political social climate? So how would I bring that? And that's what I pitched, and they said, yeah, that's interesting. Write the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you wrote the book.
Yeah. Then I wrote the book.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you write the book first and you think, what is this? And then you think, oh, it's this. And sometimes, it's again that dialogue between how much you do before or how much you do during. That's what we call practice-led research. You do some research before, but then as you're writing, oh, it's this. Sometimes you have to work out what is that thing you're doing while you're doing it.
So there's a meta process going on. You're reflecting on the process while being in the process.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's before and during.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about after.
Well, I'm really interested in the work that happens kind of post-production, if you like, because it's often not considered. In most of the work that we do, certainly in most of our tutorials, we create and discuss the process of actually developing the artifact or the process or the practice, and we very rarely then really focus on how we might market that or what the post-production process might be. So if you could kind of tell us a little bit about your post-production for the students as well.
Well, what was good is that the publisher guided me through that process. They said, we sell mostly online. We do sell hard copies, but we mostly sell online, and we sell 1 million, 2 million copies a year. We produce 2 books a week, and we have this machine going, and you're going to be part of this machine. I said, okay, what machine is this? And it was pre-releases. They said get as many people to read the book before, give us some reviews. So work on social media a lot. So I set up a website, a professional website. I set up a Facebook author page, Amazon author page, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc., etc. And they were guiding me as well, saying, this is what you do here. Then we slowly release little samples of the book or pre-releases. We get people's interest up. So I was part of that whole marketing process. And as an author, you have to be. So, and talking about bringing yourself, you have to bring your whole self to that too. You can't say, here's my book, buy it. They want to know about you. Why? The same questions. What's unique about this?
Yes.
And about your life as well. So it's bringing your whole self into that social media, which I didn't really want to go full on into, like Facebook and sharing everything, but I did. Like, here's me. Like, for example, I'm sitting writing the book. There's a kookaburra sitting next to me, so I post that on social media. Gets like thousands of likes. They said, that's great. That's the sort of thing we need. Not just here's my book, buy it.
That locates you within a certain geographical region too, doesn't it? There's kind of an Australian context within that, and it humanises.
It's humanising, and personal. So.
And I think often an audience wants that relationship with you.
Yeah.
So they want to know who you are, what your interests are, what your values are. So they're buying not just the product, but they're buying in a relationship with you as the author or as the creator in some way.
Exactly. And also the subject, like that uniqueness, like using that. Like, what is this about this book that's interesting? Does it lead to some discussion that might start a conversation starter, for example? So they helped me, they schooled me in that. So, what's interesting about that? Let's start feeding that out and getting responses. So even before the book was released, there was a lot of interest and a lot of social media, and then of course
Can I ask a question? How many weeks before the release, or how many months before the release, did these processes start to?
That was a month. That took a month because they had a timing thing. Okay, and then just before there's this hype, and then when they released the book, it sells. It starts selling immediately
because people already know.
They're ready and they're waiting. There's pre-release things and there's reviews coming out, and then they have interviews. They have blogs. They have to write blogs. We had video interviews.
So can I ask, what did you write about in your blogs? And is that a creative process in itself?
Yes, exactly. Well, I could take the closed room mystery. That's what I was doing. I say, let's talk about that. Like, have you seen this before? Is it something that's been done and is dead and dusted? No, it's happening now. And people say, oh yes, there's that movie that's just come out. Or I just saw a movie called Non-Stop with Liam Neeson. What's the name of it? Yeah. And that was it's a closed room mystery in a plane where there's one murderer and they're finding out who it is.
Yes.
So that's sort of thing I discuss. So you do bring your intellect, your academic background, whatever you have, into that process, and that's really helped me.
So that's quite a full-on process then.
Yeah.
If you're continually, for that month, engaging with new photographs or new stories, new blogs, new perspectives or insights in terms of the work, that's a lot of work in itself, isn't it?
It is. It's a full-time job.
So tell me, did it work?
Yes. Well, that's the amazing thing. It worked really well.
Yeah.
And so, of course, so on release, then they're looking at figures and sales and how it goes up the Amazon charts and how it gets, and as soon as it starts getting up to the top 100, then they say, right, let's boost it more and do more work. And I've said this before, but every time I'd post something, then there'd be more likes on my page, my website would get more traffic, and more books would sell. And I know that's anecdotal. Be a good research project actually to see how does it actually work. But you could see it happening. I graphed it. You could see that when I was active.
What did your audience? Because obviously there's specific audiences, but what did your audience particularly like? What did they like most? What brought most traffic, if you like?
It was that whole idea of I suppose it was the mystery of who done it. Basically, that was where it was going on. But there's sub themes happening as well. So I was pushing that too. So there was a few angles, but the reviews kept coming in, and then you could respond to the reviews as well. So it fed itself, and then as it got up more and more, then you could promote it more and more. So it sort of fed itself.
And who were your reviewers? Did you shoulder tap? Did you specifically invite certain people, or were they just general readers?
Well, they've got there's a special acronym. It's like pre-release reviewers or something. They've got a huge circle of people they send, and people who read, bloggers who read, and so they've got this network, and they encouraged me to start networking too. So I've got a few, but not as much as them. They had thousands of reviewers, and so they send them out to them. And then, of course, I did have a launch here, and I did promote it online, and then got some people to review it in the States and the UK and here. And so so it was good that they helped me, but now I can see what to do. And so I suppose that's the thing we can do in our classes now, and say, this is how you do it. And it's totally, we have to be on social media. It's like that's where the traffic is, and that's where things happen.
And if people are not that comfortable, there's the potential of creating a persona, as long as that persona is allied to a certain extent with who you are, because it's an aspect of yourself that you're promoting, isn't it? And it's one that relates more specifically to the artifact that you're promoting.
So you don't even have to. I mean, some people don't have videos of themselves at all. You don't know who the person is or looks like, but there's a persona, or there's activity going on.
There's a story.
There's a story.
And I don't know about you, but I read about the creative artists that I like to watch or listen to. I do like to know a little bit about who they are, what their values or their views are, what their political stance is, or what their experience has been. So I understand that that's part of the creative process. Now, just going outside of that, and it may not be directly relevant, but it's quite similar. So I'm releasing a book, I'm sending to a publisher a book just today, by close of business today. And I've already shoulder tapped a number of professors internationally. The reason I'm picking it up is this international aspect, that you don't necessarily want all of your reviews or reviewers to be from a very seemingly closed circle. Because then it does appear that you have literally just asked your mates or your family members. So you do need to be thinking about, if I am going to do any pre-release and ask for reviews, you do want to think about the demographic of those reviewers. Who am I appealing to? Where in the world are they? What who do I want to review this? Who's going to enjoy it? But also, is there a cross section of the audience? So you can't all ask everybody from down the road, because I think it just smacks of inauthenticity. So that's important, isn't it?
Definitely.
Geographic.
And then you realize how much it's good to network wherever you go, and you're not doing it to use people. Oh, I can use this, but you're just making friends and you're making contacts with people. And then so I've got friends all over the States. I said, would you like to read my book? Would you like to say something about it? And they do.
And I think I'm just going to draw back, and in a few lectures' time, Professor Phil Graham talks about an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't like the word networking, and I understand why. We use the word networking, not necessarily mean to mean some sort of manipulative ploy, but we do mean engaging with others. And the important thing is there's a reciprocity that you would then likewise blog or review or engage with one of these other kind of network partners and support their craft or their art in some way. So it's not all about taking, it's not all about asking other people to do things for you, but it's building and feeding that network and that relationship, or you're feeding your ecosystem by asking, but also by offering.
Yeah. That's a good word, ecosystem, because this publisher, for example, they've got their own ecosystem. So as soon as I was brought into their family, and I'm reviewing other people, I'm helping them, I'm supporting them, I'm promoting their work. And so when it's time for me, they'll do the same. Not because they think, you've done it for us, but because they're genuinely interested. So I was connecting to someone in Buffalo, New York, who's a writer, and she needed some help in terms of plot. I needed some help in terms of forensic. She's a forensic scientist.
Brilliant.
So, I said, can you? And so she's helped me, I've helped her. And then she's got a network of friends. So, they'd be interested in reading what you've written. And I said, well, I've got friends who are really interested in your work. So that's that.
Yes,
that
it's not
family.
A straight exchange, but it's a collaborative process. And I think that these things, I was actually just going to mention as well, before you mentioned that particular story, that the circumstances around that also create an opportunity for future collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. And
because we can dry up as creative artists ourselves, that we often need to interact, engage with, bounce off other people, or even work together and collaborative with other people. And so these ecosystems are they feed you as well as you feed them, but they feed you too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So if you have any kind of tips, hints, last minute kind of overarching messages for our students at home, how should they go about either the pre or the post-production process? Yeah,
well, if you don't have the book or the publisher, there's things that I wanted to do now I know that I should have been doing before. And so that's the ecosystem of meeting people and working and connecting to people who you're interested in their work, and you also I suppose being visible and starting to connect and social mediaize.
Yeah, no, it's true. If they don't know who you are, and they don't know your work, and they don't know what you're interested in or what you want to do, they can't read your work or engage with your work, or they can't offer you opportunities. So that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. Because the first thing that the people do is they try to go to your website or your Facebook page. So that's what they do. It's the strangest thing. Like I'll make friends with someone, and the next minute I can see they've been looking at my webpage. So that's, I think, where you start.
Thank you. Yes. No, absolutely. So start with developing a web presence that really reflects who you are, your interests, your values, and that becomes a meeting point, if you like, between yourself and the other potential collaborators. Thank you very much for joining us at home again today. It's always wonderful to have you join us and to extend these conversations as we will in tutorials. I'd like to thank you, but I'd also like to thank Dr. Paul Williams for joining us again today and for him sharing his wisdom and insights with you. Thanks, Paul. Thank you.